There we go. We're live there.
Stand by.
Welcome to the Maverick Mindset Radio Show. I'm Adam.
And I'm Ashley.
And this is the radio show for the dreamers and the doers. It's for those who are willing to step into the arena. It's for those who dare greatly so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither knew victory nor defeat. Some call us the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers. We don't accept the status quo. We leave the world better than we found it. We approach each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. We maintain a rational optimism about the impact we can have. This is the Maverick Mindset Radio Show. Here we go again.
Show number 2.
Show number 2. First technical difficulties.
Yeah.
We got through show number 1. I'll tell you what. I'll get us both on the Facebook Live. So we're streaming live, Maverick Mindset Radio on Facebook. Of course, we are live on Talk Erie and its various frequencies. And I'll tell you what, after episode 1, I got so much positive feedback from people. I was blown away. Like, we said we were going to come out swinging. We said we were going to do some really great stuff and add a lot of value. One of my favorite comments was, as soon as we ended, Joel, is Joel our producer? Is that like your title? Yeah. Joel's our producer. And you know, I was a little nervous about what he was going to say. He is a radio professional. And we had one rule for this radio show. Yeah. Remember? No swearing. Which we got through that rule. I made it an entire hour.
I was nervous.
So we took the headphones off at the end of the last show, and Joel said, and you'll remember we were talking about why you don't hit your goals.
Yeah.
And Joel took off his headset and he goes, "I feel like you're reading my mail." And that was a great, I've never heard that phrase before, but now it's part of my vocabulary. And the messages that I got, the emails that I got, like, just really encouraging from people. So I'm really excited about that.
I mean, we knew it would be great, but the responses we received have been overwhelming. So now we're on show number 2. What's the topic we are covering today, and why is it important?
So we're sticking with goals because it seems like a good place to start with things. And as a coach, as a mentor, as a good salesperson, one of the first questions that I ask people, and I know that you ask them when you do sales calls for us, is, what do you want? And after 4 years of really being a good salesperson and learning how to do that personally and coaching business owners and mentoring them, I can tell you that the number one answer I get is, I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you want? I don't know. And there's all kinds of like subconscious reasons for that and a whole bunch of stuff like that. But today we're going to start building that muscle a little bit. And we're going to talk about 3 different levels of goals. We're going to give a framework for 3 different types of goals, because I think having some like categories can help people get a little bit of clarity on it. And then we're going to talk about 5 common mistakes that I see in goal setting. And then, of course, that at the end of the show, we'll wrap up with our quote of the day and our action items. Plus, I've got an exciting announcement about an event that's coming up next Wednesday. Not only are we going to have our first guest on the show, but there's also a really cool event that I'm going to be a part of that I wanted to talk about.
Awesome. Okay. So if people want to follow along and learn more, tell them where they can go.
we're still available in one place on the internet, and that is Maverick Mindset Radio. On Facebook. We're streaming live right now from my phone, not from Joel's high-tech thing over there. My fault, not his. And so that's it. So if you want to suggest topics, if you want to contribute to any Q&A, if you want to talk about being a guest on our show, I would really love to get to the point with this show where we are answering listener questions. Yes. I think once people get a better idea of the type of stuff that we're going to be talking about, and once they get excited, and I'll tell you what, I've got my playlist. Like, I have an 18-minute drive in the morning, and I've got a 3-song playlist that I hit on my way in.
I had one.
But Joel probably saw me try to kick the door in when I walked in this morning. I'm so pumped up.
Yeah, you're ready to go. Oh gosh. Okay. So we did say we were going to come out swinging, and apparently we delivered on the guarantee. So The response was overwhelming, and that tells me we're onto something great.
Okay, so we talked about last week the 8 reasons why you aren't hitting goals, and really, what it boiled down to in a lot of cases is you just don't want it bad enough, and that can be a really hard thing to say. And we broke that down into a lot of different categories, but it's easier to accomplish your goals, and it's easier to uncover the fact that you really do want it if you go through the process of setting better goals. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How do you set better goals? How do you set goals that are meaningful to you? And I think you also wanted me to talk about why goals were important.
Yes.
And so let me go off of our outline here for a second, because that to me was just sort of an assumption. Like goals are good. But I guess I shouldn't have wanted to skip over that so quickly. So the first experience that I really remember with goal setting was when I was 29 years old. I made a list of 30 things I wanted to do before I turned 30. And I think I did like 18 or 20 of them.
That's good.
It was great. And it was a great, really productive year. And there were things and that was over 10 years ago now, but there were things that I did that year that really still have an impact on me today, because I made this list and I checked off items and I carried around this 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper for an entire year as I worked through that stuff. And, I wanted to run a marathon because everybody does that when they're 29 and 39 and 49 years old, because we're hitting those milestone birthdays. And I remember I wanted to make $10,000 in 1 month, which I did by February, which was the second month of the year. My personal favorite was, I didn't grow up a hunter. When I go and catch fish, I usually like to have someone running a charter for me, so they touch the fish and handle the bait and stuff like that. But one of my goals was to eat something that I killed. And we got to my 30th birthday and I still hadn't done. I had dreams of I'm gonna hunt a bear.
I was gonna say
I don't even know if you eat bears, but so what I did is I went to a seafood shop in town that's no longer a business, and I bought a live lobster, and dropped it in the pot. I was at that moment a 30-year-old alpha male because I ate something that I killed. Yeah. So one of my favorite things listening to this happens all the time in podcasts and TED Talks is the host says, "Well, we dug into the research." That's such a triggering phrase for me. I didn't dig into any research, but here's what I know. Setting goals makes you a happier person. Having something that you're aiming towards, scientifically, for the people who dug into the research, makes you a happier, more fulfilled person. Having goals keeps you more focused on what you actually want, which means all of the negative stuff and all the distractions and things that are going on, you don't focus on that stuff as much. And then, of course, there's an interesting process that you go through when you do set a goal of becoming a different type of person. Literally, the act of setting the goal makes you a different type of person.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back to that with our quote of the day today. But scientifically, it's been proven through the research that setting goals makes you happier, and it makes you more positive, and it gives you a more positive outlook. And then, of course, there's this other piece to it, which I do want to make sure we talk about a little bit today, is it doesn't really matter how big the goals are, but stacking those wins, even if they're little things, can have such an incredible difference on your day. So let me give you an example. And you probably haven't noticed this despite the fact that I'm trying. One of my goals for the last 10 or 11 days, I started last Monday, was every day I wanted to express gratitude. So not just feel gratitude, not just think about it, but literally say out loud, thank you, or I'm grateful for whatever it is. It could be when we were on vacation. It could be something that somebody on our team did. But I've made a really conscious effort every single day to express gratitude. So first of all, I think like all human beings, I tend to have a little bit of a negativity bias. But I think finding those opportunities to be positive and be grateful have changed I view things differently. And we all know the feeling of taking, I use an index card. I carry around an index card that has my daily goals on it. And I use a Sharpie and I cross it off, and it just feels so good. So there's benefits to goals. If you're not a goal setter, one of our action items for you today will be to start small. It doesn't need to be huge. Don't go out and say you're going to make $10 million. Maybe it's just something as simple as expressing gratitude. Maybe it's something as simple as, I don't know, take your pick, working out, go to the gym, whatever. We need to plug your laptop in. Okay, so let's talk about, now that we've talked about why goals are important, let's get into a little bit about the levels of goals, because I think this is important for people to understand. A lot of people set goals, but I did it for the first time in 2021, and it was a big deal. Like, I got it done, and literally on day 76, Jackie and I finished on the same day. We flew to Chicago to celebrate and spent a weekend there and ate and drank and did all of these things that were not on 75 hard, deep dish pizza and beer.
I remember the pizza.
Yeah. I finished it again at the end of February or beginning of March of this year, and it was just sort of like, it's not a big deal anymore. I love it. I feel great doing it. It makes me a happier, healthier person, but the sense of accomplishment that I feel just isn't there anymore. So it's not that big of a deal.
You've accomplished it.
I know I can do it. Yep.
Yeah.
So in fact, I took about 2 weeks off and then jumped back in, and now I'm on phase 1, which adds 10 minutes of visualization, 3 power list items, which is like a to-do list on steroids, and a 5-minute cold shower every day. And I'll tell you, we went camping this weekend.
Oh.
You have not experienced a cold shower until you've been showering basically with hose water at a campground in Virginia. But that's the first level goals, things you know that you can do. They're completely uninspired. They don't require you to change at all, but they're very common because your peer group, your family, your friends, and we talked about this last week, they're okay with those goals because you're gonna stay exactly the same, and that's what we want. That's what our friends want. That's what our subconscious wants. We don't want things to change. So then let's talk about the second level of goals, and that's what you think you can do. It doesn't require it's a step up because there's some level of doubt. There's some level of uncertainty. There's a little more inspiration that's required, but the thing isn't going to happen unless you actually put the effort in. And there's a question of whether you're capable of putting the effort in. And there's a question of whether the effort you put in will achieve the results. So that's the next level. That's a better goal as far as I'm concerned, because it takes something a little bit more than what you know you're capable of. And for me, this is going from 75 hard to phase 1. The cold showers for 30 days, it's not a fun thing.
You gotta want to do that.
That's one way. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so then let's get into the third level. And this is where this starts getting really fun. Stretch goals. Yeah. You may not actually believe you're capable of doing it. You may not even be able to see the entire path of what it looks like to make it happen. So I have a friend in Chicago who is an immigration attorney. He owns a really nice, successful law firm there. And he wants to help 100,000 immigrants. In other words, he wants to take the entire population of basically Erie, Pennsylvania, and help them become legal citizens of America. That is a massive goal. That is a massive goal.
Is there a timeline on this? Because don't normally
it's going to take his whole life
on a goal.
This one is not time bound. Okay. This is what the professionals called a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's really aspirational. There is a risk that it may not happen, but let's say he only helps 50,000 people. Okay, so that's 50,000 clients plus their families. Do you know how many employees and jobs he has to create in order to help that many people, which means he's helping their families. And oh, by the way, as the owner of the business, he's going to achieve some level of success too. So that is a good example of a stretch goal. The thing that it may not even happen. You may not even get there. There's another coach that I worked with that wanted to create 1 million millionaires. Just sit down with a pencil and do the math on that. It seems impossible.
Yeah.
You can't see the whole path on how to do that. But that's a stretch goal. Those are the goals that really push you and really force you to change and grow and develop. So those are our 3 levels. And we're going to talk about stretch goals. Not every goal needs to be a stretch goal, but also every goal needs to be something more than what you know you're capable of.
Okay, I get it now. And it can help to have a stretch goal. So that's That's what we're trying to get out there. All right, and you are listening to the Maverick Mindset Radio Show, and today we are talking about setting meaningful goals, setting goals that actually matter to you and that you want to achieve. And now that you've gone over the different level of goals, I know you wanted to talk about that exciting.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad I put this in our outline because I would have totally forgotten.
I would have too.
Okay, so we're about to talk about, we talked about levels, right? Goals you know you can accomplish, goals you aren't certain, and then stretch goals. Yeah. We're going to talk about different categories of goals next, because this was really helpful for me of like, oh yes, that is a thing that makes sense for me to aspire to. I needed a little bit of inspiration when I first did that. So I recently, Lewis, who owns Primo Tailoring, which is just a couple doors down from here, reached out to me. And it was kind of fun because he launched a podcast pre-pandemic, and I was the first guest on the first episode that he had. So we've been buddies since then. And he's got this new business in, the beautiful building that EDDC has renovated. And last summer he started hosting some events. So he's done like poker nights and cigar nights with the Brig Cigar Lounge that's up there. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I want to do like a symposium on different topics. Are there any of these topics that you want to talk about? And a lot of them had to do with success and goal setting and achieving things and growing businesses. And I'm like, can I do the whole thing? But I signed up for one. And so next Wednesday, the first event in the Primo Symposium is how to make your first $100,000. So what a great segue from our episode on goal setting and setting goals that really matter to you, which I don't want to spoiler alert too much of this symposium, this workshop that we're doing. But it's really going to be a perspective shift for a lot of people. So he's hosting the event next Wednesday. Doors will open at, I think, 5:30. We'll have a little bit of networking because it's always great to get in rooms with like-minded people. Anybody who's interested in having that type of conversation is probably someone that I want to hang out with. So we got a little bit of networking. I'm going to give a presentation that's probably going to run about 45 minutes, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So if I did it properly, there is a link on our Facebook Live to register for this. Okay. It's $97, or we're doing a VIP offer where for $497 you get to attend the event, plus you'll get a one-on-one coaching session with me. Okay. And that's something that we usually charge $1,200 for.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
it's 2/3 off. But for me, honestly, a lot of my coaching clients and a lot of the clients that I work with are across the nation, and this is an opportunity for me to show Erie, like, we can do this, guys. Let's make this happen. So same deal. If we can get 20 people to show up to this event, and next year we can get 10 of them to make $100,000, that's $1 million of revenue, of economic benefit to this community. All that for only $97. So we're really excited. I think I got the link up properly. We'll definitely post it on the Facebook page later to register for it. Spots are limited. We'll see how it goes. We're going to provide dinner, going to provide some drinks. Nice. Good chances that I walk up to the cigar lounge at the conclusion of the event to hang out a little bit. You can also go on Eventbrite and just search for Primo Tailoring, Primo. So that's next Wednesday evening. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's a really cool opportunity. And next Wednesday on this show, Lewis is going to be a guest. Yes. So he will be our first guest on episode 3. Yeah. And we'll hear a little bit about what he's built, because he started, I'm sure that his business right now is pretty different from what he originally set out to do. When he started that podcast before the pandemic and had me on as the first guest, I think it was called the Aspiring for More podcast. And his Instagram account was at the time the Aspiring Gentleman. So young guy, wanting to find his place in the world. I bet the business looks a lot different now. So it'll be really interesting to see what his path has been and how he's grown. And how cool is it that a guy, he's a kid as far as I'm concerned. Okay. He's a young guy. But here he is, he's giving style tips on his Instagram account, which are always personally attacking of me because I never tuck my shirt in. But he's doing these really cool events and building a little bit of a community over there. So I think that's really cool. So, okay, now, I'm really excited about that. Go on Eventbrite, Primo Taylor.
That's really exciting. And obviously, it's relevant to today's topic because I'm sure you had to set a few goals to get. And who wouldn't want to spend $100 to learn how to make 100,000? So, I mean, that's great. Okay, let's get back into to the content that we have today. Now that we know there are levels to goals, what additional framework do you use to set your goals?
So this is one that I've done business plan workshops. I talk about this during interviews. I talk about 3 different categories of goals because I think it helps people frame this out a little bit. And what I realized was I glaze over a couple of them a little too quickly, especially in the business setting, because I don't know, I talk too fast and never give myself enough time to actually finish what I want to do. So 3 categories of goals: personal, professional, and financial.
You make us do this at work too. You make all of us.
I don't make you. I make you do a lot of things at work. I don't make you set goals. Listen, if you want to live without any direction, please.
You encourage us to do this at work for everybody, so that we know what we're working towards.
Yeah. So I believe that entrepreneurship is the true path to freedom.
Yeah.
I believe that entrepreneurship is the best path to success. The second best path is to work for someone who gets it. So if you've got personal, professional, and financial goals, and you don't really want to be the type of person that runs a business, which it ain't for everybody,
it's not for me,
then work for somebody that gets that, and make sure your goals are aligned.
Yes.
There's a certain amount of money that I want to make. There's a certain amount of money that you want to make. There's a certain way that you want to spend your time during the week, and that's different than how I want to spend mine. But if we can get those going in the same direction, we're going to be in great shape. Okay, so let's talk about these categories because I think it's really important. So personal, professional, financial goals. I also talk about it as time, money, and impact. So the personal goals, the way that I usually talk about this is you've got 168 hours in a week. What do you want to do with them? Like, there are certain things that you have to do. Showering, you have to sleep, you have to eat, maybe you have a commute, or maybe not. But there's certain things that you have to do, but with the time left over, how do you want to spend it? I don't want to spend that time sitting in a cubicle.
Right.
I could sit in a collaborative workspace with whiteboards, but I don't want to do it isolated in a cubicle. Some people do. Some people just want to sit down and get their work done. I don't want to spend a lot of time in our business, frankly, being the lawyer and practicing law. That doesn't bring me as much joy as it used to. Now I find joy in growing the business and managing employees and talking to them about their goals and things like that. So how do you want to spend your 168 hours in a week? And I have some subcategories on this to help get your creative juices flowing. Family, relationships, education. Do you want to study things? Do you want to learn things? Do you want to go to seminars and workshops? Fitness. How much time do you want to spend working out? For me, it's 2 45-minute workouts a day currently. Relationships. So it could be romantic relationships, could be friendly relationships that you have. But if we talked about last week, if you want, your priorities are how you spend your time and how you spend your money. Mm-hmm. If you're saying you want relationships, but you're not dedicating any time to that, you're full of it. Almost dropped one there. But we can be proactive about this. We can decide that I want to prioritize relationships and I got to dedicate some time to that. Health, personal development, spiritual development, and then different like social relationship things. So all the categories: fitness, religion, family, travel, happy hours, naps. What do you actually want to do? The 168 hours in a week is the most limited resource that you have. So you need to be really intentional about how you want to spend that. For me, my focus tends to be on things that I really enjoy doing or that I'm really good at, and hopefully it's an overlap of both of those things. If I can spend time doing things that I enjoy, that I'm also really good at, those are the days where I get out of bed just like ready to kick the door down. So those are our personal goal categories. So of the time that you have in a week or a month or a year, how much time do you want to dedicate to those things?
Do you think most people would find if they actually took the time to write out what they were doing all day, that it is not anywhere near what they want to be doing?
Oh, yeah. So this is a calendar audit.
They're doing
this is a calendar audit. I will never forget the first time I did this. I printed my calendar out. I went 2 months backwards and 2 months forwards to see what I had planned. And I sat at Oliver's restaurant down on the bayfront and overlooking the water, and I looked at my calendar and I saw how I was spending my time, and it actually helped me plan out my next 3 hires, because there was all this stuff that I was doing that I wasn't particularly great at. I certainly didn't love doing, so I went out and hired people to do that. So the calendar audit is a really valuable tool. It's stepping on the scale, right?
Yes.
We talk about that.
Yes.
Show me your calendar. Go look at your calendar for yourself and see how you're spending your time. I say that one of my core values is to seek out adventure. If I go more than a couple weeks without doing something that's a little bit adventurous, I start losing my mind.
Yeah.
And I don't realize it. It's not on purpose. So when we went to Myrtle Beach this weekend, we left after school on Thursday, and I said, I'm driving through the whole night. I'm 41 years old. I am too old to do this. I got my wife, 2 kids, and 2 dogs in my truck, and I'm driving through 13 hours to Myrtle Beach. So we made it until about 2 a.m. I stopped at a rest area, slept for 2 hours, woke up and kept driving, and we got to Myrtle Beach as the sun was rising over the ocean. Now, that was an adventure, right? Yeah. And I'm not going to do that every week, but I had to prioritize that and make time for it. But that came at the expense of other things. I didn't sleep as much, and I also love sleep, and I need it to be rested like a lot of people. So
you just touched on something. To prioritize the things you want, you are going to have to get rid of or sacrifice some of the other things that you're doing. Right?
Because you're working with a small pie. It's only 168 hours a week. It's only 52 weeks in a year. You only have 4,000 weeks in your entire life. Great book. God. 4,000 weeks. Great book. If that doesn't create some urgency, nothing will.
Sounds so little.
It is. That's the point. Or maybe it's not, depending on how you want to look at it. All right. So we got personal goals, financial goals. We're going to break down some more categories in here too. But this is my question for people that come and work for us. This is my question for people that we work with. How much money do you need to make in order to live the life that you want to live? Too many people say, well, I make $50,000 a year right now, so 55 would be really great. Yeah. That extra $5,000 a year, that $400 and some per month that would really make a difference. We're back to goals you know you can accomplish.
Yeah.
Anybody can get a 10% raise. Yeah. Come on. No offense to people that are struggling with that. If you are, call me. I'll help you out. But the question really is, if you create your dream life, how much... I do this in 2 stages. I do it what I'm spending now and then what I want to spend to live the life that I want to live. What's your house payment? Or house payments because you've got multiple homes. What kind of car are you driving? How much does that cost you? How much do you want to give to charity? How much do you want to give back to the community, to causes that really matter for you? We talked about this before the show. Our nanny just gave her notice. So we've got to look at how much we want to spend on domestic staff because she really helps out. She really became part of our family and now she's leaving town. How much do you need to earn to pay the debts that you have or to save the money that you want to save? How much does it cost you to raise your children the way that you want to raise them? Yeah. Our tuition bill, yikes, it's worth it. Vacations that you want to take. So write all these numbers down of what you're spending now, and then in the next column, what is the dream amount? What is the goal amount? Really get clear specifically on how much it costs to live the life that you want to live. We have a spreadsheet on this that if somebody sends me a message on Facebook, I'll be able to email this out.
Let me do that spreadsheet.
Of course I did, because this stuff matters, right? Yes. And part of the reason that it matters, there's 2 important parts about this. One, you get really clear on the exact amount of money.
Yeah.
I know this year exactly how much money I need to make in order to live the life that I want to live. And in fact, that impacts my life 10 years from now based on some of the stuff that we're doing now. Having clarity on that goal, again, eliminates all the distraction, getting very specific with it. So yes, knowing the number exactly. A lot of people jump in and go, well, I just want to make $6 million a year. Yeah, but you don't actually know what that means. You don't know what that life looks like. You can buy a couple houses and you can buy a couple cars and you can take a couple of vacations and you can spend some money on jewelry. You're still going to have $1.5 million left. So then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
This exercise helps you get really clear on what that life actually looks like. For us right now, we talked about this house that we moved into about 1.5 years ago. We have 2 boilers because we have got the in-floor radiant heat, which, awesome. But one of our boilers broke. Well, so when we did the math on this house, it's not just the car payment, but it's also what happens when you got to spend 10 grand on a new boiler. Our bridge that goes over the creek in our driveway is washing out, and that's a $20,000 or $30,000 expense. We didn't budget that one. I never expected that to happen. But that's a great example of I rented a house in Miami once with a group that I was there with. There were 7 air conditioning units. And I sat there and really pictured, what does it cost to maintain this place? This house is great. It's awesome. But I better be budgeting for a replacement of at least 1 air conditioning unit a year, assuming they got a 7-year life. I got to replace the air filters and all of those things. And it gives me a really clear picture of exactly, this house is great and it's awesome. And renting it for the week is pretty pricey. And I'm glad that I shared it with some friends of mine. But it helped get really clear on the reality of what it is that you're hoping for. You can. We talked about this on the last episode. You can slap that picture of the Ferrari up on your wall, but until you're ready for a $1,500 oil change, you have no idea what it takes to drive that Ferrari.
Yeah.
So that's our financial goals. We got the spreadsheet for that. The last one is your professional goals. This is the impact that you want to have. This is, what is the dent that you want to put into the earth? For me, there's a sentence, it's sort of an not ad lib. It's a fill in the blank. What are those things? It's like pick one noun, pick one verb. Anyway, my kids do those. Mad libs. To be a successful blank that I can be proud of, I want to make the world a better place for blank by doing blank. So, in order to be a successful law firm owner that I can be proud of, I want to improve the lives of entrepreneurs by helping them with the legal issues that keep them up at night. Yeah. And I know if I have a client that reaches out that says, man, I'm sleeping better at night because I had this thing that I didn't know how to handle that your firm helped with, I feel pride, right? In order for me to be a successful, Joel is nodding over there. I love it. We need to get him a mic. I'm reading his mail. So in order to be a successful business coach that I can be proud of, I want to help solve problems for business owners to make their lives better. Yeah. Right? I know when somebody says, yeah, you took me from where I was to where I am now and my income doubled, or I hired 10 more employees or whatever, I feel pride in that, and that's the impact that I want to have. Supporting entrepreneurs is very important to me. Doesn't need to be for everybody. So we've got the personal goals, we got the financial goals, we got the professional goals, time, money, and impact as we talk about it. But I think that framework can help people. If you sit down with a pen and paper with that framework, you'll start coming up with ideas. Yeah. And I think that initial brain dump is a good place to start with that.
Okay, so you've explained the difference between a goal you know you can accomplish, or think you can accomplish, or a stretch goal.
Yep.
And now we have these different categories. And one of our action items will be for our listeners to set aside time to think through these things and write them down. But before they jump into that, can you share the common mistakes you see in goal setting?
Yeah, so what I'm finding is I like coming up with lists for this show. I'm also finding that the lists could be 10 times longer than they really are. Yeah. But today I came up with 5. These are 5 of the most common mistakes I see when it comes to goal setting. The first one is you're setting goals that don't actually have meaning to you. Yeah. Set a goal that is what you want, not what you think someone else wants for you. Let me say that again. Set a goal that is something that you want, not what you think someone else wants for you.
Which goes back to what you said earlier when you ask people, what do you want? They usually don't know. That's hard. I think that's harder than people to actually sit there and think about what you want.
Do we have time to get into this? All right. Yeah. Maverick Mindset Radio Show. Streaming live on Facebook. Blowing your minds every Wednesday at 9. We beat it out of people from a very young age that they don't think about what they actually want. Yeah. We give them images. Again, we show them what we think they should want for them. And we're raised in a society, frankly, that dictates what you should want. Grow up and be a doctor or a lawyer, because that's what success looks like. Yeah, except most of them I know are miserable, and many of them I know are broke. So what are they really getting at? Okay, they're helping people. That's great. There's a lot of ways to help people with less debt and less time involvement. Yeah. So finding the goals that are really meaningful for you is mistake number 1. People pick things. All right, spoiler alert. Next week's symposium on how to make your first $100,000, that may not be a goal that has any meaning to somebody. Yeah. It could be more money than they need to live the life that they want to live, or it could be not enough. So question number 1 is, that's a nice milestone, but is that something that you really actually want? And we went through this with the mistakes last week of, it's a lot easier to go get through the issues and the problems if it's something that you actually desire. One way that I love to do this is to rent the lifestyle. So we went on a road trip a couple months ago and rented an Escalade. I don't know that I would go and buy an Escalade, but I rented it from Hertz or whatever. And it turned out it was awesome and I really, really want one. But I didn't know until I rented that. On the other hand, I rented a minivan, which I hear some people rave about, to come back from Michigan, and it was really practical.
Yeah.
And it was even a plug-in hybrid minivan, and it had sliding doors on both sides and room for all of our luggage. I don't want the minivan. I'm glad I rented it, but I had to find that out. And it could go the other way around. The Mercedes G-Wagon, super cool. They're $200,000. They ride like crap. It's a glorified Jeep Wrangler, right? Like, not something that I want. But if you go to South Florida, there's going to be people driving their G-Wagons around because that's what you need to look cool when you pull into the club or whatever. Yeah. So finding goals that actually have meaning to you. And this is going to require a little bit of soul searching, and it's going to require a little bit of practice and muscle building. But think about it. Spend some time thinking about what is actually meaningful to you. Okay, second mistake when it comes to goal setting. You're setting goals that are too general. They're not specific enough. So the question is, how will you know when you've succeeded? My test is, if I could explain to Royce what my goal is, he's 13 years old. If I can explain to him what my goal is, can he tell me at the end whether it's done or not done? Too many people, hey, there's Mark walking by. Oh, I love having a studio with a window. All right. So too many people set goals that are really generic. I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
I want to fall in love. I want to have a nicer house. I want to drive a nicer car. I want to give more money to charity. I want to be happier. What does done look like on any of that stuff? So get really specific on what it actually looks like. This is why we talk about on the financial goals, know your number. Come to the realization of exactly how much money you need to make in a year in order to achieve it, in order to be fulfilled or live the life that you want to live. So the more specific you can get with your goals, the better.
I think that you always do this to me. You always you'll ask me something, and then I say it, and you're like, well, why? And then I answer again, and you're like, why? And I answer again, and you're like, why? Because you know I haven't got to really what. Like, I want to lose weight. Why? Well, I want to look better. Why? So if you ask the whys on that goal all the way down, you eventually get to the real goal. Really what? Well, I want to feel better. I want to be happy. Okay, that's your goal, right? That's the goal. How do you get there?
3, that's a good exercise. I should.
You do it to me all the time.
3 whys.
When I don't, I'm not ready for it. And I'm like,
nobody's ready for it, because nobody really thinks through that.
It.
Yeah, we're too busy with our day-to-day lives that we're not asking ourselves why. And here's the common answer for why. Because I said so. Yeah. Right? That's what we're used to hearing.
Yes.
So why? Yeah. All right. Great. 3 whys. Great exercise. All right. Number 3, common mistake. Maverick Mindset Radio Show. Streaming live from downtown Erie, Pennsylvania. You don't find that sweet spot between the stretch goal and the merely attainable goal. It's usually too much of one or the other. There's a sweet spot in there where it's motivating, it's inspiring, but it's also a little bit challenging, or maybe a lot challenging, to keep you really focused on it. So finding that sweet spot of the stretch goal versus the attainable goal. You don't want to walk into your job or your business on Monday morning with 10 stretch goals. But you also don't want to walk in with goals that are merely attainable that aren't really pushing you, because as a leader, you're not going to be showing up properly to really motivate your team and keep them moving. So find the sweet spot between stretch and attainable. This requires trial and error. This requires a willingness to change goals or adjust them. My goals now are not what so after I did the 30 under 30 list, turned 30 years old, I went to make a 40 under 40 list. First of all, I couldn't even come up with 40 things. Second of all, by the time I turned 40, some of those things just didn't even matter to me anymore. Yeah. Like that, as I would check, I saved the list in Dropbox, and I still have my Dropbox account. And as I would go back and check that list, I'd say, you know what? I don't really want this anymore. I thought I did. I thought that I wanted to live in my prior house forever and just renovate the kitchen and make it really, really nice. And then I realized, that's not my goal. My goal is to really move into a new different home.
It's okay, because I think most people would think if they changed or adjusted a goal, I failed, because I didn't do. But because we have set these goals, and because we are people and we evolve and we change, it would make sense that as we go along, our goals change. So it's okay to adjust or change a goal as you go along.
Certainly. You learn new information, you get new experiences. One of my favorite things to do is especially on the income goal, to set it, and as I approach it, I end up increasing it. So before I even achieve the number, I end up increasing the goal because I get new experiences and I learn new things and I say, well, I want that in my life.
Yeah.
So I better increase the goal. And I usually end up doing that before I even hit it. So finding that sweet spot is really important. Okay, number 4 mistake. I went from 5 to 1 on this. So this is actually number 2 in my notes, number 4 on the list, is you set too many goals.
Yes.
That's it. That's all you need to know. You set too many goals.
It's obvious.
Set fewer goals, right? Decide what the priorities really actually are. It'll cut down on distractions, it'll keep you focused, which I've said 37 times throughout this episode. And this relates to finding that sweet spot. I talk to a lot of people that are in really bad situations in their life. Usually they're not reaching out for help until it's gotten really, really bad. Now, some people, before they hit the ceiling, reach out for help. But other people, they wait until things get really bad. And I don't know if it's necessarily rock bottom, but it's a low point.
Yeah.
I think in those instances, if you've got more than one goal, you're already setting yourself up for failure. If you're at rock bottom, pick one thing that you can focus on, that you can control, that will change your situation. And once you get out of that and you start building a little bit of momentum and you start stacking wins, which is one of my favorite things to talk about, then we can set more goals and we can set bigger goals and we can focus on more than one thing. But if you're at rock bottom, pick one thing that you have control over and go and do that.
Because that is attainable, and then it gives you the motivation to go to the next.
It's you build that momentum of getting the one thing done. If there's only one thing that you can get done in a day and you focus on just doing that, you're going to feel great already.
And like you said earlier, it can be small. It doesn't have to be. Jackie just said to me, she just said to me the other day, 1 box at a time. Just open, like, 1 box at a time. The only
we're still doing that 2 years later.
Yeah, but it's a goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was something small, like something, just focus on that.
Yeah.
One thing at a time. So it was like, okay, I can do that.
Yep.
I can do that.
That's a good
do
one.
the goal that you can do if you're at rock bottom.
That's a good one. Yeah. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay.
Yep.
Number 5 reason why people fail when setting good goals is you forget why the goal is important to you and you only focus on how to achieve it. If I'm training for the marathon, which I've run 2 marathons in my life, and it's been several years since I've done it, but there was a point where you could blindfold me and drop me at any spot on Presque Isle, and I could tell you what mile marker I was at because I spent so much time running down there. If you get so caught up in the routine and what you need to do to accomplish it and the plan and where do I stand on the plan and what do I have to do next and what habits am I building, and you forget why the goal is important to you, the why is actually the most important thing. And I'm glad you said that earlier. At 3 whys in particular. Yeah. Why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why is that important to you? Answering that question can really help you dig down and help you set better goals and help keep you focused on that. So those are my 5 common mistakes that I see when it comes to goal setting.
That's good. It was nice. I saw Joel. He was writing all these notes as we were. He's like over there just writing. But if you're listening to this and you're not taking notes, I mean,
you know what we should do? We should let's order Maverick Mindset Radio branded notebooks.
Yes.
I will use it to keep my notes for the show. Our listeners can use it to take notes on what they have going on. That would be really fun.
You need to message us on Facebook if you want one.
And if you know of a local printer that can make those things for us.
We'll do it.
All right.
Adam will do it.
Let's jump into the quote of the day. It's a great goal.
Yes. Okay. Today's quote of the day is brought to you by Rust Belt Business Law. Rust Belt Business Law exists to help business owners with the issues that keep them up at night. So Adam, hit us with the quote. I like this one.
Oh, I had so many quotes. I could have had 1,000 quotes for this episode. But the one we decided on is what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as who you become by achieving your goals.
So this is a great quote. I like it a lot. But tell us why we chose this quote. Like, break it down for us real quick.
Well, it's all about change. It's all about setting those goals at those higher levels that require you to change, that require you to do something different. And another spoiler alert for next week's event on how to make your first $100,000. In order to make $100,000, you first have to become the type of person that makes $100,000. That's backwards. It's a little woo-woo. But there are certain things that those people do. And let's take it 10x that. Let's take it to $1 million. There's certain things that people who make $1 million a year do that people who make $30 or $40 or $50,000 a year aren't doing.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the show. We're changing our mindset and our approach to things and becoming those types of people.
Yeah.
Quote of the day from Rust Belt Business.
All right. So let's talk about action items. We are only here once per week, and that gives our listeners time to go out and implement. Today's action items are brought to you by Pennywise Tax Strategies. Business owners, take a proactive approach to your taxes and take action now to reduce your tax bill next year. And you can learn more at pennywise.tax. Okay, Adam, take us home. Now that we have this great framework for goal setting, what are the things that people can implement this week to start seeing change?
First
if
thing.
they had a notebook.
Go and buy a notebook. Send us a recommendation for a printer. You know what else we have coming out, which I'm really excited about, is we've got, not for the radio show, but for Rust Belt, we have our own, Pennywise has it too, our own roast of coffee, which I'm really excited about. So action item number 1, pour a cup of coffee, pull out your notebook. Okay, so first thing, this is easy. This is fun. This is one of my favorite things to do, but oh my gosh, is it difficult? It's such a challenge.
Yes.
At some point today, maybe as soon as this show's over, maybe later this afternoon, maybe before dinner, maybe before you go to bed, take out your phone, set a timer for 10 minutes, close your eyes, and just daydream. Just visualize. Just picture what you think you would want your life to look like. I think the more specific you can get with this visualization exercise, the better. I used to do this when I bought my first Porsche in 2019. I used to visualize my morning. And what I would do, I wake up and then I would picture myself working out, and then I would picture myself reviewing some spreadsheets and metrics from the office, and then I would picture myself walking into my garage, and I would open the door with my left hand. I would reach in with my right hand and flip the light switch on, and there, sitting there, was a Guards red Porsche Cayman. And I visualized what it felt like to grab the door handle on that car and the sound it made when I pulled that door handle.
Yeah.
And then I would picture in my mind sitting in that seat, which was leather, so it was cold on my back, and putting the key into the ignition and starting it. And if you haven't listened to any type of Porsche, particularly with a flat 6 engine, if you haven't listened to a cold start video of one of those, oh my gosh. So I picture what it sounds like and what the shifter felt like in my hand and what the steering wheel felt like in my hand. And I did that every day for about a month. And then I ended up finding that car and bringing it into my life. And I've up-leveled it a couple of times even since then. So just spend some time to daydream. I'm doing it now where I'm pivoting in life to becoming one of these speaker author coaches, right? It's a lot of people put that in their LinkedIn profile and in their Instagram bio. So I'm picturing what that actually looks like. What does that mean? What type of activities am I doing? Yes, I drive down to this studio every morning or every Wednesday morning for this show, but I've also got 2 or 3 bigger speaking engagements coming up in the coming months where I'm going to have to travel for those. And I'm picturing, what am I going to be wearing on stage? What is the audience going to be looking like? And I'm getting really clear on that picture. I'm creating that picture in my mind, which makes setting the goals even easier.
Yeah.
I know that I want to go out and book a certain number of speaking engagements, and the more I train my mind to get used to that, the easier it's going to be to do that.
We become what we think about.
Oh yeah, that's going to be another show, but
Yep.
Absolutely. In fact, we'll talk about vision boards and all of that stuff later on, because there's a lot of things that people get wrong about those. So that's one. Take out your phone, set a timer for 10 minutes, and just start to paint the picture in graphic detail. Action item number 2. Write your goals down. Once you've decided what they are, put them on paper. I used to use Dropbox. It wasn't as satisfying. The digital version didn't work for me. I love putting it on an index card. When I've got bigger goals that I'm working on that are a little bit longer term and farther out, I will actually write them on my index card every single day, along with my to-do items, my power list items for the day. So every day what I want to accomplish, I write that down on an index card. And again, get really detailed and get very clear about what done looks like.
Yeah.
So that you can plant that flag and say, yes, we've done it. Here we are. Okay. The other thing that I would encourage, if you get to the point where you've set these goals and you're satisfied with them, and they got to be a little uncomfortable,
Yes.
right? They have to stretch you. You have to have some doubt and uncertainty about this. I recommend then sharing that goal with someone that you admire or respect, because that's going to add a whole other layer of accountability to it. And in fact, that's a great way to help accomplish your goals too, because they may help set you on the right path. So write the goal down, get really detailed, and then share it with someone that you respect. And then the last thing, we're talking about building that muscle of deciding what you want. Do one thing this week intentionally, on purpose, just because you want to do it.
Yeah.
It's not logic, it's not being rational, it's not justifying, it's emotional. Do one thing just because you want to do it. But really think about it, right? Mm-hmm. I like eating junk food because it tastes really good, but I do it mindlessly.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm trying to think of a good example. I may vacuum the carpet in my office at home just because I want to do it and I want it to look nice, right? It's not an obligation. It's not because there's dirt on the floor, but I like the way the stripes line up on the carpet. So I'm just going to do that just to stretch that muscle a little bit. So those are our 4 action items for the week. Won't take a ton of time, but you've got to make it a priority. We're going to look at your calendar. We're going to see if you actually did this. Did you set the timer on your phone and spend some time daydreaming or visualizing? And since we have time, can I use another quote that I heard? I don't even know if this is a legit quote. I don't even know if it's attributed.
Another quote.
Yeah, because this one I needed something to fire me up, and I felt like on our last episode I kind of came out swinging, but this time, this one really stuck with me, and it's been in my head, and it's been bugging me. You are doing nothing compared to what you're capable of doing. That's almost as bad as you only have 4,000 weeks to live.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm 51% of the way through that. But yeah, you're doing nothing compared to what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
So allow that.
It's like a step on the scale one type of.
Yeah, allow it to stretch you a little bit. So I'm really excited. This was a great show.
Yeah.
And what are we talking about next week? What is our topic?
Gosh, you put me on the spot all the time because I want to talk to you about that. We have one, but I have other it's a surprise.
Oh, you want to switch it up?
Yeah, I think we need to switch it up, and we'll talk about it. So to be determined.
So follow the Maverick Mindset Radio Facebook page because again, we don't have a website, we don't have an email address, we don't have a phone number. Follow the Facebook page. Yep, we'll provide some updates there. We have our first guest next week with Lewis, which I'm really excited about. And we'll be talking about the event that's happening next Wednesday, which you can sign up for now on how to make your first $100,000. Yeah. So we're going to talk about setting the goal. We're going to talk about how to make it meaningful. We're going to talk about coming up with the plan to do it and what it takes to actually persist through that and what type of person you have to become. Yeah. So again, that's available on Eventbrite. Look up Primo Tailoring. They've got events on there. It's only $97. Next Wednesday night, we will feed you for that, which I think is a screaming deal. I think we'll have some drinks available as well. Be about a 45-minute lesson. We'll have some networking and some Q&A. So that will be a really fun event.
Yes.
We did it. Episode 2.
We did it. Number 2.
We persisted through our technical difficulties.
We did.
All right. We will see you next week. Maverick Mindset Radio Show. Blowing your minds every Wednesday at 9.
Yeah.